You hear the music. Hello, everybody. I'm Ed Robinson, and welcome to another edition of the League Wraparound. This is the program that gets you caught up on anything and everything happening around the world of the NFL. Coming up on this edition of the program, we'll preview Week 13's most important games, including the Thanksgiving and Black Friday games. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the program. And also, we'll have some news involving Daniel Jones. Thank you so much for tuning in to this edition of the program. And on behalf of my family to yours, we'd like to wish each and every one of you a very happy Thanksgiving. And as always, before we preview Week 13's most important games in the NFL, let's recap Week 12's most important games in the NFL. Thursday Night Football saw an intriguing matchup in the AFC North rivalry game between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Cleveland Browns. The Browns would go on to beat the Steelers in a snowy game. Final score, 24-19. The Minnesota Vikings took on the Chicago Bears in an AFC North rivalry game. The game went to overtime. John Parker Romo kicked the game-winning field goal. Vikings beat the Bears 30-27. A wacky game between the Dallas Cowboys and the Washington Commanders. Jaden Daniels throws a touchdown pass to Terry McLaurin with less than 30 seconds left in the game. Washington cuts the lead to 1. However, Washington kicker Austin Seibert missed the extra point. On the next play, Washington attempts an onside kick. Dallas recovers it and scores a kick return touchdown. Cowboys go on to win 34-26. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers went up against the New York Giants. Tommy DeVito in his first start. For the G-Men, different quarterback, same results. Buccaneers beat the Giants 30-7. Great game out on the West Coast between the Arizona Cardinals and the Seattle Seahawks. Seahawks would go on to beat the Cardinals 16-6. The San Francisco 49ers took on the Green Bay Packers at Lambeau Field. It was all packed. Packers would go on to beat the 49ers 38-10. Sunday Night Football saw the Philadelphia Eagles take on the Los Angeles Rams. What a performance by Saquon Barkley. Barkley's 255 rushing yards propelled Philly to beat the Rams 37-20. Monday Night Football saw the Harbaugh brothers go at it. Head coach for the Ravens, John Harbaugh. Head coach for the Chargers, Jim Harbaugh. In the end, Ravens do it again. Ravens beat the Chargers 30-23. And that takes care of, or I should say that's a recap of Week 12's most important games in the NFL. Now time for my top 3 storylines. I want to start off talking about the NFL on Thanksgiving Day. When you think of Thanksgiving Day, it's all about family, food, and football. So the NFL, Thanksgiving Day, it's a tradition that goes back to 1920. And games since that period of time and as the decades have come and gone, NFL and Thanksgiving Day has become a winning tradition. It's become a winning combination. But a gentleman by the name of John Madden, broadcaster, cultural icon, since the mid-90s, when you think of John Madden and the NFL and specifically Thanksgiving Day, it's all about one specific item. It has become a cultural icon on Thanksgiving Day. When you think of John Madden and you think about the wacky terms and the wacky definitions that he had, and of course, the Madden Cruiser, later the horse trailer, and of course, you think about the turducken. It's certainly a unique item that's become a part of a lot of families' Thanksgiving menu. And certainly the NFL Thanksgiving Day, and sadly, Coach is not with us. Coach has been transitioned several years ago, but hey, his legacy will continue to live on, and that's why it's been called the John Madden Thanksgiving Classic. And certainly, you know, when you think of John Madden and you think about all the great Thanksgiving games that we've had over the years, it's truly been fun, whether it be involving the Dallas Cowboys or maybe involving the Detroit Lions or the Chicago Bears, so on and so forth, even the Green Bay Packers that have played on Thanksgiving Day. Thanksgiving Day certainly is a special day, and certainly it's a day where people can get together and celebrate and unwind and, of course, have food and have football, and that's what it's all about. And the NFL certainly has, I mean, since the first Thanksgiving Day, the first Thanksgiving game that the NFL had was on November the 5th, 1920. The first game was the Canton Bulldogs versus the Akron Pros. Akron would beat Canton 7-0. Also on that day, it was the Decatur Staleys versus the Chicago Tigers. Decatur would win 6-0. You had the Dayton Triangles beating the Detroit Heralds 28-0. You had the Columbus Panhandles and the Elyria Athletics battle to a tie at 0. The Chicago Boosters beat the Hammond Pros 27-0. And you had all Tonawanda beating the Rochester Jeffersons 14-3. So we've definitely come a long way from that, I tell you that. But, you know, again, the NFL, Thanksgiving Day, it's been a winning tradition for so long, and we'll continue to have that, you know, for many years to come. Of course, people will have their traditional Thanksgiving menu items. Some people like stuffing. Some people do their cornbread dressing. Some people like to do variations of a dressing. Some people will do the turkey. Some people do roast beef. Some people like ham. Some people have the traditional sides with the mac and cheese and also sweet potatoes or maybe yams. Some people like to do their desserts. Some people like to include the turducken, which is what John Madden brought to the forefront in terms of Thanksgiving and how it should be celebrated. But no matter how you do it, just remember, football, food, NFL, Thanksgiving, truly nothing like it. My next storyline is going to be Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley went on a tear last Sunday night, helping the Philadelphia Eagles beat the Los Angeles Rams on Sunday Night Football. 255 rushing yards, 302 total yards, truly phenomenal. And as this show is currently airing, he is currently the NFL's league-leading rusher. Saquon Barkley was he was the heart of the New York Giants offense. And it's just a shame that he did not get that contract. I mean, he was given a franchise tag, but a quarterback, which we'll discuss in a little bit, was given a contract extension. Since Saquon has been with the Philadelphia Eagles, he has been the X factor and the game changer for that Philly offense. He has just truly been phenomenal, and clearly it's him and Derrick Henry. It's him, Derrick Henry, and Lamar Jackson, 1, 2, 3 in the league MVP race. And I'll get more into Saquon and Derrick and the game coming up with the Eagles and Ravens is just a little bit, but Saquon Barkley has just worked wonders for this Philadelphia offense. Whenever Jalen Hurts and the passing game have had their difficulties, Saquon has come in and saved them and has been able to help them get the ball downfield and open up lanes for the Eagles passing game. The best is definitely yet to come. Knock on wood, Saquon remains healthy. This Eagle offense, it's going to cause a lot of opposing defenses problems and then some from here on out. Storyline is going to be Derrick Henry. So I mentioned about Saquon handling his business last Sunday night against the Rams. Derrick Henry, he handled his business helping the Ravens beat the Chargers on Monday night. Derrick Henry had 140 yards rushing, and Derrick Henry is a a man amongst boys. He's been like that. Hey, we saw what he did during his time with the Tennessee Titans. There was one season where he led the league in rushing, not once but twice. One of those seasons, he rushed for over 2,000 yards. Derrick Henry, similar to what Saquon Barkley has done in Philadelphia, what he's doing in Baltimore is insane. He's been an X factor. He's been a game changer, and he's right at the top when it comes to leading the MVP race, being one of the front runners, being one of the candidates for this year's league MVP. Derrick Henry is a power running back amongst and then some. If Derrick Henry had played in the 80s and the 90s, even if he played in the 70s, Derrick Henry would have had 2,000-yard rushing seasons just about every year. If not every year, most years he would rush for over 2,000 yards. It would be insane. Derrick Henry has shown up and shown out for so long, and he's really paying off big dividends for the Baltimore Ravens this season. A little bit, I'll go more into detail about the big game coming up between the Eagles and Ravens, but just like what Saquon has done for Philadelphia, Derrick has paid off big dividends so far for the Baltimore Ravens. Takes care of my top three storylines before we preview Week 13's most important games. Daniel Jones. So, Daniel Jones, during the earlier part of the week, was released by the New York Giants. Both Daniel and the Giants mutually parted ways. They decided to agree upon that it was best for both parties to move on. So Daniel asked for his release. The Giants agreed upon that. And so Daniel cleared waivers and is signed to the Minnesota Vikings practice squad. And this should be interesting because, they say, life has a funny way of humbling us all, and certainly both New York teams, the Giants and the Jets. Listen, Sam Darnold having a fantastic year this year and definitely deserves to be one of the candidates for this year's league MVP. Sam Darnold, hey, all you football fans out there, and anybody that's followed the NFL for quite a long time now, you know about Sam being drafted by the New York Giants. He had some challenging seasons as the starting quarterback of the New York Jets. And now Daniel Jones cleared waivers, signed to the Minnesota Vikings practice squad. This should be an interesting turn of events where you have Darnold and Jones, who both were quarterbacks for both New York franchises. Darnold was the starting quarterback for the New York Jets. Daniel Jones was the starting quarterback for the New York Giants. Both of them had their struggles during their time in New York. If this thing goes any further, let's say that the Vikings have a deep run into the playoffs. Maybe they play in the conference championship, and the possibility that they could play for the Lombardi and head to New Orleans and maybe play for the Lombardi trophy. Man, both New York franchises are definitely going to be in for one if that in fact happens. Even if the Vikings play in the NFC Championship game, boy, you talk about you talk about a slap in the face to both the Jets and the Giants franchises. Boy, New York would definitely have a rough year. It would be a rough year. I mean, seeing not just Sam Darnold kicking butt, but then also, too, just having Daniel Jones be a part of success, even as a backup with the Vikings. Boy, you talk about taking a L not just one time, but two, both Giants and the Jets, if that was to happen. But Daniel Jones, after 6 seasons of being the quarterback for the New York Giants, he was released early in the week, and then he has a new home, signed to the Minnesota Vikings practice squad. So we'll see how that plays out with the Vikings. All right, so now it's time to preview Week 13's most important games in the NFL. Thanksgiving games. We have the Chicago Bears going up against the Detroit Lions. So when you think about the Bears, right, you think about the Lions, Chicago and Detroit. Every year, you know, when you think of Thanksgiving Day and you think about just Thanksgiving games, those are some of the teams that come to my mind when I think about Thanksgiving. Bears, Lions. The first time these two teams met was, their first meeting was October the 2nd, 1930. You had the Chicago Bears going up against not the Detroit Lions, but the Portsmouth Spartans. That was the Lions. That's where they were. That was their original name. Not the Detroit Lions, but the Portsmouth Spartans. And their first meeting, again, was October the 22nd, 1930. Spartans would beat the Bears 7-6. Boy, we have come a long way from the Portsmouth Spartans to now them currently becoming the Detroit Lions. And again, the Spartans would beat the Bears 7-6. That was October the 22nd, 1930. And Chicago currently leads the all-time series, 105, 78, and 5. So the Bears lead the all-time series with 105 wins, 78 losses, and 5 ties. So Chicago and Detroit, again, you know about the tradition of the Detroit Lions always playing on Thanksgiving Day, the tradition unlike any other. And certainly both teams are going in opposite directions. Let's start off with Chicago. The Bears losing a tough game in overtime last week to the Minnesota Vikings, their NFC North rival. And Caleb Williams, he played much better. Again, the Bears losing this game, but Caleb and the Bears offense, they played much better. Shane Waldron, only one season as the team's offensive coordinator, was fired. Thomas Brown comes in. Caleb and the Bears offense, they play much better despite the loss. I don't know what the future is going to hold for head coach Matt Eberflus, but they've got a tough one going up against a team that is Super Bowl bound with the Detroit Lions. So the Lions, they came in, they handled their business, beating the Indianapolis Colts in Indianapolis. And, hey, Detroit, they're clicking on all cylinders. Again, this is a Super Bowl-bound season for them. Dan Campbell in the front was one of the front runners to be Coach of the Year. Detroit's offense is just clockwork. Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator, has everybody clicking on all cylinders. Jared Goff, the team's quarterback, what can't he do? The running backs, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, Thunder and Lightning. The wide receivers, Amon-Ra St. Brown, one of the best in the league. You've got Jameson Williams playing at a high level, coming back from the suspension. You got Tim Patrick, who's a nice piece to that Detroit offense. Sam Laporta at the at the tight end position, playing at a high level. Detroit's offense is just clicking on all cylinders. Defensively, they've been solid as of late. I know they're still feeling a little bit of a hurt with Aiden Hutchinson being done for the year after suffering that devastating injury in the game against the Dallas Cowboys. However, the trade deadline, Detroit, they pulled the trigger and they got Zadarius Smith in the trade, I believe coming over from the Cleveland Browns. And certainly Detroit they have not missed a beat. And certainly Detroit, again, this is a year where Super Bowl or bust year for them. And certainly Detroit, they have it on their mind as they're looking closer to that game against the San Francisco 49ers. But right now, it's a rivalry game in the NFC North against the Chicago Bears. And they can't get caught slipping, because when you think of Bears and Lions, you think of the rivalries, the players that have played for both franchises, both proud franchises, both proud cities, both franchises that have produced Hall of Fame players, and certainly Detroit on a Thanksgiving Day. You know about the culture of Detroit, and you think about Detroit and Thanksgiving Day and Thanksgiving morning with the parade that they have rolling through downtown Detroit, and then just blocks away is Ford Field, and tailgaters, they have their whole Thanksgiving setup with the turkeys and the fried turkeys, or people may do their cornbread dressing, or maybe their stuffing, and certainly it's a parade, it's a party, starting off early in the morning with the parade, and then the tailgating, and then, oh yeah, there's a football game with the Chicago Bears and the Detroit Lions. And certainly, short driving distance from Chicago to Detroit, a lot of Bears fans will make their way to Ford Field, and certainly there's going to be a lot of trash talking, certainly before the game and during the game. And we've got a great one with Caleb Williams going up against Jared Goff, and Chicago's defense trying to stop Detroit's offense. And this should be a fun one on Thanksgiving Day with the Chicago Bears going up against the Detroit Lions. We have the New York Giants going up against the Dallas Cowboys. So first for the Giants, disappointing loss at MetLife Stadium in the New Jersey Meadowlands. Tommy DeVito did not play well. Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers just handed it to the New York Giants. So DeVito suffers an injury. It looks as though Drew Lock is going to get the start, and the New York Giants, basically, they have nothing to lose. Daniel Jones, that didn't work out. Jones was released, and Tommy DeVito comes in. The Giants, as well as Giant fans, were hoping that DeVito would come in and maybe turn the season around, or maybe give them a glimmer of hope. Not the case, as they were embarrassed by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So Drew Lock is the person that's next, hopefully, to maybe give the Giants offense a morale boost, maybe lift their spirits up. It's been a tough year for the New York Giants. And then on top of that, Malik Neighbors comes in. He had his post-game comments saying that the team was not playing well, said the team was soft, and it just wasn't hitting, and it just as though the morale was gone. So maybe Drew Lock could come in and maybe lift the spirits of the Giants offense, as well as the Giants team as a whole. As for the Dallas Cowboys, crazy win over the Washington Commanders. They've got some fire coming into this Thanksgiving game against the New York Giants. Cooper Rush, maybe him and CeeDee Lamb could continue on their connection going into this game against the New York Giants. Also, Kevontae Turpin provided a spark on the special teams, and defensively, the Cowboys played very well against the Commanders. So we'll see on this Thanksgiving game what the Giants and the Cowboys will bring. Maybe at first it looked as though it was a game that nobody wanted to pay attention to, but now I think a lot of eyes are going to pay attention to this game. People are going to pay attention to the Bears and Lions game, but a lot of people are going to pay attention to this Giants-Cowboys game now, because the Giants have a new quarterback, Drew Lock, going up against Cooper Rush, and hey, this could give this game a new life, and we'll see what happens in Jerry World in Arlington, Texas, for this Thanksgiving game between the New York Giants and the Dallas Cowboys. We cap off Thanksgiving night with the Miami Dolphins going up against the Green Bay Packers. So let's start off with the Dolphins. The Dolphins, big win over the New England Patriots. Tua Tagovailoa on a hot streak now since he's become the starting quarterback yet again, coming off of the concussion. And the Green Bay Packers, listen, the Packers dismantling the San Francisco 49ers last week. Jordan Love, that offense, Josh Jacobs, the running game. hey, you can't go wrong with that, right? And the Packers defense playing at a high level right now. So Thanksgiving night, Lambeau Field, Green Bay, Wisconsin. Frigid temperatures are expected. You know, Miami, they don't play well in games that have frigid temperatures. You saw what happened last season in the playoff game at Arrowhead Stadium. Game time temperature was minus 20. Tua Tagovailoa, God bless Tua, great guy. I love Tua, but Tua, born and raised in Hawaii, does not play well in cold weather games. And Thanksgiving night, Dolphins Packers at Lambeau Field, they say the temperatures are expected to be in the mid-20s, and it's going to be a tough go. I hope that Mike McDaniel has a game plan ready for the Dolphins offense to try to get points or even try to get yardage against Green Bay's defense that has played well as of late. But this should be an interesting one at Lambeau Field between the Miami Dolphins and the Green Bay Packers. We have the Black Friday game with the Las Vegas Raiders going up against the Kansas City Chiefs. So for the Raiders, losing to their AFC West rival, Denver Broncos, Gardner Minshew done for the year after suffering a broken collarbone. So the Raiders they've had issues all season long. For the Kansas City Chiefs, a come-from-behind victory beating the Carolina Panthers. And Kansas City, Kansas City, they've had a lot of close games all season long. They just have not had the punch. They just have not had that knockout game that a lot of us have waited for this year. They've been towing the line and, they've been playing around this year, but they've been winning games. And we'll see what happens whenever Isaiah Pacheco comes back, Juju Smith-Schuster comes back. Will they have the knockout punch games towards the end of the regular season, even going into the playoffs? We shall see. But Raiders and Chiefs, this is an AFC West classic rivalry game. You know about the great players that both of these organizations have produced, the Hall of Famers. And this is going to be a rematch of last year's game on Christmas Day with the Raiders pulling off the upset. And Black Friday, on the heels of post-Thanksgiving, Kansas City, Arrowhead, it's going to be a frigid game, a frigid late afternoon game. Kansas City's known for the barbecue, so I know they're going to have their turkey. They're going to probably most likely have a barbecue turkey, maybe some brisket, some roast beef, maybe some burnt ends to have with those Thanksgiving leftovers. So it should be a fun one down in Kansas City with the Raiders and the Chiefs and the Black Friday game. We have the Los Angeles Chargers going up against the Atlanta Falcons. So for the Chargers, losing a tough game on Monday night to the Baltimore Ravens. And, Justin Herbert and the Chargers offense, they played very well in the first half. But second half, Baltimore just had their number, and Chargers wind up taking an L. And as for the Atlanta Falcons, they had their bye week, but the week before that, they were embarrassed by the Denver Broncos in the Mile High City. So Chargers and Falcons, I think this is going to come down to the quarterbacks. Justin Herbert going up against Kirk Cousins. Who's going to commit the least turnovers towards the end of the game? Both teams are playing for a lot of pride. Both teams losing tough games in their last outings. This should be an interesting one, and I know J.K. Dobbins will not play in this game due to an MCL sprain, so this is going to it begins and ends with Justin Herbert. It begins and ends with him, and I think for Atlanta, it's going to begin and end with Kirk Cousins, but this should be a fun one in the ATL with the Los Angeles Chargers going up against the Atlanta Falcons. We have the Pittsburgh Steelers going up against the Cincinnati Bengals. So for Pittsburgh, the Steelers losing a tough one last Thursday night to their AFC North rival Cleveland Browns in a cold and a game that had a lot of snow. And the Steelers, they just looked out of it. The Steelers, in my opinion, just really didn't have it in this game. They came alive late in the game, but it was too little too late for them, losing to the Cleveland Browns. And as for the Cincinnati Bengals, They had their bye week, but the week before that, losing a tough one on Sunday Night Football to the Los Angeles Chargers. So there's a lot at stake for this game. Cincinnati fighting for their lives. They're just fighting to stay alive. Joe Burrow statistically having a great season, but the team is below 500. Jamar Chase doing what Jamar does best, put up numbers. T. Higgins having a nice year. Cincinnati's defense, the one bright spot, Trey Hendrickson, he's fiery. He's been fiery all season long, wanting his team to play at their best, and they're not playing at their best. As for Pittsburgh, this is a redemption game for them. Mike Tomlin, he's going to have his troops ready. You know, Russell Wilson, this is going to be a statement game for him. Najee Harris, Jalen Warren, this is going to be a statement game for them. And certainly Pittsburgh, they want to bounce back, especially in a rivalry game with the Pittsburgh Steelers going up against the Cincinnati Bengals. The Arizona Cardinals square off against the Minnesota Vikings. So for Minnesota, big overtime win over their NFC North rival, Chicago Bears, last week. For Arizona, losing a tough game to their NFC West rival, Seattle Seahawks. So with the Cardinals and the Vikings, Minnesota signing Daniel Jones to their practice squad. So you've got Daniel Jones on your team, but Sam Darnold has made some big plays in the absence, of course, you know about J.J. McCarthy being hurt during the preseason. Darnold comes in, becomes the starting quarterback, and it's just been automatic this season. Minnesota, you know they're going to bring the heat defensively, and offensively they're going to bring it as well, not just with Darnold, but Aaron Jones, Justin Jefferson, T.J. Hawkinson back in the lineup as well. And for the Cardinals, again, this is a must-win game for them. They want to keep their playoff hopes alive. Kyler Murray, if you thought Seattle's defense gave him fits, Minnesota's defense is going to be no joke. And certainly this is a game where James Conner is definitely going to have to come alive in this one. So this should be a fun one in the Midwest with the Arizona Cardinals going up against the Minnesota Vikings. A fun one down in the Crescent City between the Los Angeles Rams and the New Orleans Saints. So for the New Orleans Saints, they had their bye week last week, but the week before that, it was a big win for the Saints, beating the Cleveland Browns. The Saints have a surge of energy. The morale is back up for that team since the firing of Dennis Allen and the interim head coach, Darren Rizzi, who is also their special teams coordinator, has come in and has given this team new life. As for the Los Angeles Rams, being embarrassed last Sunday night by the Philadelphia Eagles, the LA Rams, they're coming down to the Crescent City wanting redemption. Matthew Stafford, Kyron Williams, Kua and company, their head coach Sean McVay, they have it on their minds, and they're not coming down to New Orleans just for gumbo, beignets, and red beans and rice and a second line. They're coming to get a victory. And for those of you that remember Rams and the Saints, when they were in the same division in the NFC West, those games were so intense, whether they were playing in Anaheim or playing at the Coliseum or they were playing in the Louisiana Superdome. You know about those games. You know about with Jim Everett, Bobby Hebert, the Dome Patrol, and Flipper Anderson, Henry Ellard, and Jerome Bettis, and so on and so forth. Those Rams and Saints games used to be intense back in the day, and they've been pretty intense as of recent memory. But this should be a great one between the Los Angeles Rams and the New Orleans Saints. The Philadelphia Eagles will square off against the Baltimore Ravens. So for Philly, big win last Sunday night beating the Los Angeles Rams. Saquon Barkley just had a game for the ages. Running the ball, 255 rushing yards, phenomenal in every way. Philly's defense was effective. Matthew Stafford had no answers for that Eagles defense. For the Baltimore Ravens, they too had fun on the West Coast as well, beating the Los Angeles Chargers. Derrick Henry just went off in that game. Lamar Jackson, he got his in too. And then you had the supporting cast with Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, also Mark Andrews. He contributed as well as Justice Hill. Philly and Baltimore, this is a rivalry along I-95. Two East Coast teams, two teams going at it with two great quarterbacks with Jalen Hurts and Lamar Jackson. This should be a fun one in the Charm City with the Philadelphia Eagles going up against the Baltimore Ravens. Sunday Night Football, the San Francisco 49ers will go up against the Buffalo Bills. So Buffalo enjoyed a well-deserved bye week. The week before that, they had an impressive win over the Kansas City Chiefs, helping the Chiefs lose their first game of the year. As for the 49ers, embarrassed by the Green Bay Packers, they're looking to head to Western New York to get redemption. Brock Purdy, he's been throwing the ball. We'll see what happens with the Brock situation. Brandon Allen may get his second start. And this is going to be a cold game in Orchard Park, just outside of Buffalo. Snow is expected in the forecast, so they're going to need, San Francisco is going to need a whole lot of Christian McCaffrey in this game. George Kittle, they're all-world, all-pro tight end, a lot of blocking in this contest. You're going to see a lot of George Kittle in this game as well. As for Buffalo, hey, Josh Allen, he's going to be Josh Allen. Rain, sleet, snow, hail, sunshine, he will throw the ball, he will scramble, he will do whatever it takes to try to get Buffalo a victory. And, of course, this is going to be a fun one, right? Buffalo Bills, Bills fans, Buffalo in general, one of the best NFL cities. Fans will show up, rain, sleet, snow, hail, sunshine. And you better believe that Bills fans in the snow will show up and they will tailgate and they will have a lot of fun. Sunday Night Football, the San Francisco 49ers versus the Buffalo Bills. Monday Night Football, we have the Cleveland Browns going up against the Denver Broncos. So for Cleveland, big win over their AFC North rival Pittsburgh Steelers on Thursday Night Football. Jameis Winston exuded confidence, the belief, the faith system. It's never a dull moment with Jameis. That's why we all love Jameis, right? And Jameis had a solid game in the Browns' victory over the Steelers last Thursday night. For the Denver Broncos, an impressive win over their AFC West rival Las Vegas Raiders. Bo Nix, week after week, is getting better. Sean Payton, he's found his guy, and he's willing to work with Bo, and he's gotten what he's wanted. He's gotten what he has wanted out of Bo Nix, just in terms of the arm strength, the accuracy, the athletic ability, making the plays, and certainly Bo is going to be tested. This is going to be a big one for him Monday night at Mile High Stadium, or should I say Invesco Field at Mile High, with the Denver Broncos going up against the Cleveland Browns. When you think of Browns-Broncos, the two quarterbacks, John Elway, Bernie Kosar, they gave us great games, including two classic AFC championship games, the drive and the fumble. It won't be that this time, but I think we'll have, we have Jameis Winston going up against Bo Nix, and this should be a fun one, Monday Night Football, with the Cleveland Browns going up against the Denver Broncos. All right, now it's time for my game of the week. My game of the week will be the Philadelphia Eagles versus the Baltimore Ravens. Eagles and Ravens. These two teams, these two cities, nestled along I-95. Teams have great quarterbacks, Jalen Hurts and Lamar Jackson. Both of these teams are very effective on the offensive side. Both teams have quality receivers, Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown. Also on Baltimore side, Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman. Also Nelson Aguilar. Both teams, two tight ends. For Philly, Dallas Goedert. For Baltimore, Mark Andrews. But these two teams, their offenses and their teams have been shaped by the running backs. For Philly, Saquon Barkley. For Baltimore, Derrick Henry. Both of these gentlemen have been game changers and have been X factors for their teams respectively. Both of these gentlemen are at the top of the list for this year's league MVP. As this show is airing, Barkley is the league's leading rusher, and Derrick Henry is number 2. Both of these gentlemen were highly respected coming into the league, and they remain highly respected. Barkley, during his time with the New York Giants, was tolerated but was not celebrated. In his first year with the Philadelphia Eagles, he is being celebrated and then some. For Derrick Henry, great seasons with the Tennessee Titans. However, he was looking for a change. Wanted to play for the Dallas Cowboys. Jerry Jones said, "No, we don't have the money to pay you." Out goes Dallas, in comes Baltimore. And it has paid off big dividends for both Henry and the Ravens. This will be a showcase, no doubt, of the quarterbacks as well as the other offensive players, and both defenses will get theirs in as well. But I think this is going to be a showdown between two all-world and future Hall of Fame running backs, Saquon Barkley versus Derrick Henry. The Philadelphia Eagles versus the Baltimore Ravens. My game of the week. All right, before we get on out of here, I want to give you my picks on who I think will win Week 13's most important games. Thanksgiving games. I like the Detroit Lions to beat the Chicago Bears. The Dallas Cowboys to beat the New York Giants. The Green Bay Packers to beat the Miami Dolphins. Friday game. I like the Kansas City Chiefs to beat the Las Vegas Raiders. I like the Los Angeles Chargers to beat the Atlanta Falcons. I like the Pittsburgh Steelers to beat the Cincinnati Bengals. I like the Minnesota Vikings to beat the Arizona Cardinals. In a close game, I like the Los Angeles Rams to beat the New Orleans Saints. I like the Philadelphia Eagles to beat the Baltimore Ravens. Sunday Night Football, the Buffalo Bills versus the San Francisco 49ers. I like Buffalo to win. Monday Night Football, the Cleveland Browns versus the Denver Broncos. I like Denver to win. So again, my picks are Detroit, Dallas, Green Bay, Kansas City, LA Chargers, Pittsburgh, Minnesota, LA Rams, Philadelphia, Buffalo, Denver. And that's it. And that's going to do it for this edition of the program. And on behalf of my family to yours, I'd like to wish all of you a very happy Thanksgiving. Until next time, everybody, I'm Ed Robinson saying so long, you take care, and enjoy the games.
Hey everybody, thank you so much for tuning into the channel. Remember to click like, share, and subscribe, and thank you for watching.